Welcome everyone again to the Vinyl Community Guncles. And we are getting ready to review the album that I suggested from Big Star called Number One Record from 1972. See what everybody thinks about this'n. And so yeah, we're going to review that. And let's do that. We are the Vinyl Community Guncles. My name is Robert Fithen, along with Richard from Calvin Wazoo, Mike from Hub Tunes, and ladies and gentlemen, the man that thought a self-checkout was standing in front of the mirror saying, "Look at me," it's Craig from Craig's Vinyl Plethora.
It's not what it is. And now I learned.
That was a weak one, I admit.
But I like it. It's almost true. I'm first with Big Star. Yeah, with the Big Star number one record that I never heard in my entire life from 1972. So I liked the opening track. I was like, okay, this is good. And then I think it was the third song, In the Street, came on. I had not realized that I had actually heard that song because it's the opening theme song for that 70s show that, for the record, I've seen maybe 3 episodes of that, but I know that opening. And I guess Cheap Trick does it. This version is better. It really should be called Down the Street, though, because I don't recall them ever saying In the Street. They say Down the Street, same old place we did last, whatever. The song 13, at first I was concerned. Like, oh, is this by a Pedialyte? What is going on here? And then when the line came up about Paint It Black, and Craig went and checked it out. What is his name? Alex Chilton. So he was actually born in 1950, so he would have been 16 years old when Paint It Black came out. So 16-year-old and a 13-year-old still, but it's not as creepy as he was 22 when the album came out. So I don't know, maybe he was one, maybe this song was old, and maybe that is what's going on here. So I don't know that I would call this number one record. Now, are we calling it number one because it's their first record, or number one because we think it's the tops, it's the be all? I'm going with the first option. But it wasn't horrible. I did not hate this. Again, I'd never heard it before. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, and I tend to, when somebody says that I have to listen to something, then I'm not going to listen to it because you told me I had to, and that I was going to love it.
Probably a good.
And chances are I'm not going to, just despite you. So, like I said, I don't hate it. I don't know that I would own it, so I'll be the only one out of the group that don't have a copy of this. Maybe if it was given to me. His voice at times got annoying, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. I really liked the backing vocals. I looked it up. I can't remember what the guy's name was. But yeah, what?
Well, there's two singers.
Oh, there's two different.
They switch off and on, yeah.
Oh,
Chris Bell and Alex Chilton.
Oh, Chris
and I think
Bell.
somebody else sings one of the songs. I think Andy Hummel sings the India song. Who's the I think bass player.
Oh, well, I just knew nothing.
They do sound similar, though. I mean,
they sound very similar. So, there's a lot of kind of like very somber things when they rock. It's great. When they don't, it's not as great, but there are some, like, I don't know. I liked that 13, even though, like I said, I was concerned when it first came on. But I liked the sound and the melody and the vocals and all of that. So, this wasn't terrible. So, I 3.5 rainbows from this guy. So
it wasn't terrible.
Wow, it wasn't terrible. That is glowing.
Hey, I think you probably expected me to think it was terrible, though.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
actually,
I have a copy. Yes, and I bought this. All right, this came out in 1972. I knew nothing about it. This was a record that I had completely never heard it.
Nobody did.
So Yeah, when I find but it was one of the most influential rock albums of the 1970s. It was ushering in this new sound. I completely missed all that. And then that's what I read later. I saw it in a number of lists that, this is such a great album, such a great album. So I went and I bought it. It is a very melodic album. The players are very proficient and skilled with their instruments. The writing is quite good. It's a very, very listenable album. Though it has this air of familiarity about it, I guess. I just kept feeling like, gosh, I've heard this, but I hadn't. So those are all, to me, the positive things about it, but they are also at the same time detract from the album, because I was, kind of expecting this record was going to and not for this, for what we're doing here. But when I bought it, I thought, this is going to be something really interesting and fresh and innovative. And I heard none of that, in the record. The songs are good. All right. They're good. But to me, there's like the opening song Feel, which was one of the better ones. But to me, it just it took everything that the Beatles and the Rolling Stones were doing and kind of put it together. If they were influential to me, I think the band that probably got some influence from them was Rush, because the first two Rush albums have that, to me, the same kind of vibe that this album has. That's just, my take on it. The Ballad of El Goodo, I kind of thought that was a bit reductive. 13, at first I thought, this is going to creep me out, but then I realized, no, this is a peer, relatively a peer relationship. I got that, and it's not a terrible song. Don't Lie to Me was probably the next song that I thought was pretty decent. The India song, I can't tell if he's being sincere or sarcastic, because he's talking about a wish that he lives in a house in India and he's drinking gin and tonics. And I'm thinking, my God, you privileged prick, this is how you want to live. But, but I can't tell if he was being sincere about that, because, I don't want to disparage people from Tennessee, but this is where they're from, and their idea of how people live in India, the way they were describing it in the song, came off as very colonial, as very, I didn't like that. When My Baby's Beside Me, it's, My Life Is Right. I mean, all the songs there, they're okay. But Watch the Sunrise was another fairly strong one. But yeah, when I was getting this record, I maybe my expectations were too high. I can name off 10 way better, influential, and innovative albums that were released in 1972, way ahead of this one. That's not to say this is a terrible album or anything. To me, it's just an okay album. The only times I ever listened to it was when I first bought it, and I listened to it a couple more times, in preparation for this. It's if you want it, Craig, I'll give it to you.
Well, you're going to see him in the day.
I know. Oh, and then I'll have it.
It's
the 13-year-old song.
I'll give it a 3. 3 rainbows.
3 rainbows for Richard.
Well, I got it. This is the pressing to get, by the way. I think you guys all have the craft pressing that just came out a few years ago.
Yeah,
I have the RSD Essentials. It is. I don't know who did this.
Craft, yeah, it's great.
It's on gold vinyl.
He's fancy. He's got gold. Fancy guy.
But which one is that?
Mine's black.
No, I mean, you said that's the pressing to get. Which pressing is it?
the Craft recordings.
Oh,
that came out
okay.
a year ago. Yeah, I think Richard has that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, so Alex Chilton was in the Box Tops, and he goes solo. He leaves the Box Tops, and he forms a band called Big Star. And nobody knew this. This is a cult record, a cult classic. Only certain people knew about it, cared about it, bought it, listened to it, and over the years, it's become, people like Tom Petty are talking about it. People, Wilco and Uncle Tupelo and the Jayhawks and all these bands are talking. Cheap Trick. All these bands are now all of a sudden like, oh, we loved that record. We knew that record when it came out. We loved it. It influenced us.
Of course they did.
Of course they did. Yeah.
Of course they did.
And maybe they did. Maybe they did. I don't know.
They do have a similar sound.
Absolutely. I mean, Jeff Tweedy's covered half the song. Wilco and Uncle Tupelo have played almost this entire album. I mean, they've covered like half of the songs on here. Musicians say it's a very influential. Tom Petty swore by this record, not anymore. People have claimed that it's the first power pop record. People have claimed it's the first. Alt country record. Different people claim different things about it. It's a good record. It's a really good record. I really enjoy it. I've had it for a couple of years. I think I had a copy on tape years ago. I don't know. I Feel is my favorite song on the record. 13 I love. I saw Wilco play that live. I saw Uncle Tupelo play that live. Ballad of El Guno, I like that song. I think it's really good.
Oh, yeah, that one.
Yeah, I really enjoy the whole thing. Is it so influential on me as a music listener? No. But as a musician, I could see how people in 1972 would be influenced by it. Absolutely. I think Alex Chilton, I love his vocals. I was actually at South by Southwest. They were doing a Big Star reunion at South by Southwest in, God, I don't even remember what year it was. 2010 maybe, 2008. And there was a Big Star reunion, and they were all three of them were getting back together, and I had tickets. Everybody, the whole place, Austin was abuzz that Big Star was getting back together, and Alex Chilton died that morning in Austin. Yeah, and you could feel like the entire city was just like so let down, and they ended up doing like a huge. That night, instead of Big Star playing, they did a huge just concert in memoriam of him. And, Jeff Tweedy was there. Wilco was there. Sunvolt was there. All these musicians came together and just played music from this record. They only made 3 records. This is the first one. Their third one would be third. And the second one is actually really good, too. Radio City... I think it's just called Radio City.
Yeah, it's just called Radio City.
Yeah, that's an excellent record. That one gets overlooked, actually, because this one gets all the pub. But, man, what a night that was. Absolutely incredible when Alex Chilton passed away. The balloon was like, you could feel like the air come out of the city. It was devastating. But, for me as a music listener, does it blow me away? No. But I could see how, a young musician, a young Tom Petty hears this record in 1972. It probably shaped his career. I definitely, I could see how it would be influential. I give it 3.5 rainbows.
All right. Well, the whole reason I picked this is because I was originally saying everybody could have the week off, and you don't have to listen to any albums from me. And then you said, "Oh no, you have to pick one. You have to do it." And this was laying on the jukebox because I had just bought it, and so I grabbed this. But I don't think anybody is saying that Uncle Tupelo or the Jayhawks heard this in 1972. This
Well,
was
they might
released
be.
in '72, and it was on Stax. And if anybody know, I've talked about the history of Stax when we did the Staples album,
Yeah.
and why that didn't work. It was critically acclaimed at the time. All these publications were giving it 5 stars and whatever, but no one bought it because it was on Stax, and Stax had major financial issues, major promotional issues, so the album just died. But I do think that it was Tom Petty and maybe a couple others that actually heard it in those days, and it was a big influence on them. I think the Jayhawks and the Wilcos and the Buffalo Toms of the world heard it in the 80s when Tom Petty and others would talk about it. It's an album that had kind of 2 lives. It's the same thing as the Stooges, the Velvet Underground's first album. It came back around and got popular because some rock musician lauded it and said it was an influence on them, thereby influencing other people, and the chain continues. I don't think Wilco and those people were saying they heard this in 1972. But
No.
What really attracted me to this, and I was another one who'd heard about this album for a long time, read about it. It had a real resurgence in the 90s when all of these bands like the aforementioned ones were talking about it, and I think it was officially released on CD for the first time in the early 90s, and that was another big boom. And then you had what Mike was talking about with the concert, made it popular again. So this album's had several lives, but it was definitely more popular in the 90s than it was in the 70s, or 80s probably even. But yeah, I've always wanted to hear this, always heard a lot about it, but just like Craig said, you hear all that stuff and it just makes you go like, you know what, this is just no way. I'm gonna skip it. And that's what I did. And I didn't hear this for years and years. I didn't hear this until probably 2005 or something after. And I also heard it was Wilco loved it and the Jayhawks loved it. So how good can it possibly be?
Oh,
And so, but yeah, I thought it was great. It's the kind of album that on paper I should not like at all. Jangly guitars is how it's described. I don't like jangly guitars.
You know,
A lot of the songs are relationship-oriented songs. I don't really care for relationship-oriented songs. Oh my God, it influenced the Jayhawks and Wilco and all these. I don't really care for those bands. But there's just something about this record that sounds so authentic to me. That's the thing. It doesn't sound like it's being like a copying off of something else. It sounds so original and so like, and you can hear why you listen to bands like Wilco. You can definitely hear how they were influenced by this, and even the offshoots like Golden Smog and all that. I mean, they definitely sound like it. But I just always prefer. Any situation like that, I usually prefer the original that they're influenced by. It's the same thing with like hip hop songs. I would rather hear the song they're sampling than the hip hop song or the dance song using the sample. And it's kind of the same kind of concept there. But the song 13, I always assumed the guy was singing from the perspective of a 13-year-old. That's the way he's sounding.
yeah, but so many songs back in
young
those times.
It's not Christine 16. It's not,
no, back in those times.
Craziness like she's only 17. He's supposed to be 13 too. But the India song, I get the impression that he's just wanting to go somewhere far away and get away from everybody. That's why at the end of the song he's saying, I'm not even going to tell anybody that I'm leaving. I'm just going to go. And I'm going to just relax and just go somewhere away from all of whatever's going on here, as far away as I can imagine, and probably as far away as somebody from that part of the, that lifestyle can imagine is going to India. Again, the world was a much larger place back then. We didn't have the internet, but it does have some corny. When my baby's beside me, corny. Oh, I got my baby beside me. I usually don't care for songs like that, but these guys just sound so good, and the album just sounds so recorded so well, and there's just no pretension at all. Being from Southern Illinois, where Uncle Tupelo and all those people are from, I always got a feeling they were kind of not being genuine. They were trying to be something a little more country than they really were. And the people around me that liked that music at the time, and there was one guy in particular that was just obsessed with Uncle Tupelo. He was a little more country, and the beer, a lot of beer. beer all country. These guys don't sound like they're drinking beer. They sound like they can't afford beer or something, but Yeah, I just it doesn't seem like the kind of album I would like at all, and I just absolutely do. And I love the variety where they go from this, this acoustic guitar just singing about whatever, and then being the vulnerable 13, and then they go into this rock and roll, don't lie to me, screaming, don't lie to me over and I mean, you don't get that on those other things. And as far as it sounding like Rush, I do not get that at all.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was saying that Rush was perhaps influenced by that.
Yeah, I don't. The right record is in that sleeve, right? I don't get that at all. I think they sound like a kind of a cross between like Badfinger and like Todd Rundgren. If those two kind of melded together, because Badfinger again sounds like a lot like the Beatles, and so it's kind of like that second generation, and they sound more like Badfinger mixed with Todd Rundgren, early Todd Rundgren, not the later, more experimental stuff.
I could see Badfinger. Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah. But like the Todd Rundgren, like, we got to get you a girl, and I saw the light and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah, but I will give it. Wow, what will I give that?
What will you?
I'll give it 4.5 rainbows.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
It just blows me away that I would even like something like that. So it gets an extra half rainbow for that, because it doesn't sound like something I would like at all.
No, it's a good record.
As it's described.
That would be 14.5.
All three of their records are solid. The second one is really good.
But if you're expecting something to blow you away,
no,
it's not going to do that. It's going to be something that's like, wow, this is great. Not, whoa, fuck,
this
dude.
Is the thing. This is making me want to be an artist.
Yeah, it's not the White Album. It's not, Well, it's not the Stooges.
Yet.
You're not going to crank it up and want to listen to it 5 times in a row. It's just something that's great for a cold fall evening.
Nice glass of wine.
Beer.
Yeah,
beer.
I don't know. The beer's more for the Jayhawks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we'll find out what album we're listening to next from Craig.
You're finding out, because yeah. So I didn't prepare myself because I totally forgot. So this is a record that I've actually just got a few days ago, and I've been listening to it nonstop. I don't even know how I heard about this. I know nothing about her. So and it's so great. It is so great.
This is going to be where?
So her name is this is Candy Staton.
Okay.
Heartaches and Sadness. This is rare cuts from the Fame Sessions Masters. So it was a RSD thing from like 2021 or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Candy Staton.
Yeah.
So streaming wise, the only place I've found it is on YouTube. So again, I know. So I will try to know more about her, but I could not stop listening to this. It's just, I think it was mentioned. She was mentioned.
What's the album title again?
Trouble, Heartaches, and Sadness. All my favorite things.
How far did that go? How far does that album go as year wise? It's multiple years, right?
It's 1969 to 73.
Okay, so it doesn't get into her disco. She had a big disco song called "Young Hearts Run Free."
Yeah. That was then later in the 90s.
Yeah, but I always wanted to hear her early stuff. It'd be interesting to get introduced by rare tracks rather than stuff that made the
and so I want to go kind of explore her more, and maybe it's not going to be as great as but yeah, Candy Staton. Very surprised by that.
Yeah, she did a lot of cover songs on her albums. I think she did "In the Ghetto."
Yeah, there's definitely some covers on this.
Yeah,
one that surprised me, and maybe that's how I heard about it. But when you look at the track listing, you'll understand.
All right, so that is coming. What's it called? Rare tracks and
so Trouble, Heartaches, and Sadness is actually the title, and it's rare cuts from the Fame Session Masters.
Okay.
So Fame Studios in Muscle Shoals.
Yeah.
They recorded that at that legendary studio.
Oh, I'm looking
for that is coming up our review of that. We've also got our tops and bottoms of 2018 on the way. We also have our video of our Chicago trip, if everything goes well with that. And yeah, we're all going to meet up for the first time, and so be prepared for that. And we should all be prepared for that.
I hope we're prepared.
See how that goes. And also, we're going to try something different. We're going to pick our favorite songs from a particular artist, rank them, and then the other three have to rank that list. And then the first one we're doing is Craig's top 18 Madonna songs.
Madonna's happening.
So
finally, prove that you are gay.
Finally, it's happened to me.
Our toasters are vulnerable.
Yeah, y'all need to be, well, Fifth and maybe not as much, but y'all need to be educated on Madonna.
There's some of her albums that I've never heard, but I've heard most of her.
I like a lot of Madonna songs,
yeah.
And I have a lot of Madonna albums.
She's got some bad ones.
I don't have any
some
of
on that list.
They probably are on my list, but oh well.
Causing a Commotion's on there. Spoiler alert.
Now that one I don't know that one.
Such a good. Shut up!
Oh my god, this
baby.
Is that the Together We Be Causing a Commotion? Did she say we be right?
Together we be yeah.
She says we be causing a commotion.
Get over we be. We be causing a commotion in Chicago.
It's from
it's
Shanghai
from
Surprise, isn't it? Or
no,
who's that girl?
That girl.
Yeah, who's that girl? Oh my! Has anybody seen that movie?
Yeah, I own it.
Oh,
it's the greatest movie ever.
That movie's not the greatest movie ever.
It is the greatest. It is up there with Rhinestone.
It's not even the greatest Madonna movie.
Well, that's Desperately Seeking Susan.
Well, yeah. So how can it be the greatest movie ever if it's not even as good as Desperately Seeking Susan or Truth or Dare?
Well, Truth or Dare is different. That's a documentary concert film. That would be the greatest she ever.
I gotta find my Truth or Dare shirt that I got in Blockbuster Video.
I used to have one. I wore it in high school.
I'll bring out my Madonna poster.
My dad asked me why I was wearing something with that trashy lady.
It's in the closet right now.
What's in the closet?
I have a Madonna poster from the Ray of Light.
But I have a Madonna laser disc.
I wish I had a Madonna laser disc.
Oh, I forgot. I have a Big Star shirt on. Anyway, it's Boogie Nights, but it still has a big star on it.
Yes, but it has a big star on it, yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much for watching. All that and much more is coming up. Thank you for watching this, and hopefully we'll talk to you again. We are the Vinyl Community Guncles. Once again, I am Robert Fitton, along with
Richard at Calvin Wazoo.
Craig's Vinyl Plethora. Me.
Mike at Hub Tunes.
Thanks again for watching. We'll talk to you again next time.
Thank you.
Cheers.